Welcome to the Big Screen Symposium podcast. The Big Screen Symposium was held in Auckland at the Victory Events Centre on the 5th and 6th of April 2024. Celebrating New Zealand talent, the keynote address included 7 New Zealand actors with unique stories and outlooks. In this podcast, Pax Assadi shares his thoughts on our 2024 theme, Stepping into the Unknown. This session was presented by Te Mangai Paho.
Thank you. Hi, everybody. It's very good to be here. It's a huge honor to be here. I feel I feel like I'm not supposed to be here amongst giants of our industry and masters of their craft. It feels very strange to be on the stage and see my name among those names. I've only ever been on one set in the cast of one show, and it's the show that I wrote and I put myself in it. So no one's ever given me a job, you know what I mean? So it feels weird. It feels weird to be here. That laugh was too hard. Also, I'm fucked off that Cliff Curtis is after me. Because, no, listen to me, I respect Cliff Curtis deeply, but I went to a thermal hot pool in a town in New Zealand somewhere, I'm not gonna say which town, and I went to a thermal hot pool, and I walked into a pool that was kids-free. It was the kids-free pool, it was too hot for kids, and not in a sexy way, and I went into the pool, and I sat down, and a woman was sitting there already, and she looked at me, and it was a pool where you're supposed to relax, so she didn't want to be loud. And she looked at me and she went, "Oh, are you the guy from TV?" And I was like, yeah, that's me. Bake Off, yeah, that's me. Yeah, and she was like, "Oh my God, hi." And I was like, hi. And I felt really good about myself. And then fucking Cliff Curtis walked in. And she went, That's Cliff Curtis. And I went, yeah, it's Cliff Curtis. So once again, Cliff Curtis walks in after me, and it's really annoying. I also, as the comedian, I feel like I have to do a joke, like a jokey joke, because I'm the comedian, but I don't want to do one that I wrote. I want to do one that my father wrote. Because when I was told that the topic was stepping into the unknown, the first thing I thought of immediately was my family, and my father specifically. Because my father, as an Iranian man, came to New Zealand as a refugee at the age of 21. He escaped Iran into Pakistan at the age of 16 and met my mother there, my Pakistani mother. He met her there. She was a nurse. He saw her, and then he pretended to be sick so that he could keep going back to the hospital to see her over and over again. And then they got married, and they came to New Zealand and had me. And I cannot think of a more potent example of stepping into the unknown than my father and other refugees like him, who out of necessity come to another country that they have no idea about. They do not know how it functions. They do not know the language. They don't know anything about it, but they come to that country. They take on the challenge of setting up their life and being constructive, useful members of society, and they do it anyway. Can you imagine coming from Iran, not knowing English, and coming to New Zealand and being like, all right, it's time to get a job at Harvey Norman, you know, like it's scary. So I'm gonna tell you a joke that my father wrote, okay? Now, just know that my father is married to a Pakistani woman. Remember that when you hear this joke. Some of you are like, all right, we're ready to cancel you, Pax. Okay, it's all right, I've made enough money. So the joke goes like this. 3 men on a boat in the middle of the ocean. They're on a fishing trip. There's an American man, a Canadian man, and a Pakistani man. That's not the funny part, man. Storm hits. Massive wave capsizes the boat. They're all in the ocean now, swimming for their lives. Shark swims up, eats the American man, eats the Canadian man, swims up to the Pakistani man, and then swims away. And the Pakistani man looks up at the heavens and goes, "Oh God, why did you save me?" And the shark looks back and goes, "Nah, bro, I ate one of you last week and my butthole's still burning." What is butthole in sign? I should have known. I still haven't spoken about stepping into the unknown. I've got 2 minutes left. Okay, so when I got told about that this was the topic, the first thing I thought was, what does the unknown mean? So I looked it up. I went on the internet and looked it up. And there are lots of definitions of the unknown. But the one that jumped out at me was one from that I found. It's a particular definition that resonated with me, and it's from the Merriam-Webster Dictionary. And this definition reads, something that requires discovery, identification, or clarification. And the reason I love that definition of the word unknown is for one specific reason. It's because that definition implies that the unknown should not be left alone. That the unknown isn't something that we observe from a distance. It's something that we need to engage with and discover and learn about. It implies that we need to be active when faced with the unknown, which is something that I love because as a son of refugee parents, of course, when I told my parents that I wanted to be a comedian, there was a deep sense of sadness. It wasn't like a little bit upset. My mother bawled her eyes. She cried for 3 days. I'm not even joking. Of course my parents want us all to be doctors. Us Asian kids, they want us to be doctors. Because it makes sense. You come to a country, you have no social capital, and the quickest way to gain that social capital in one generation is your children become doctors. Everything turns around. You're respected in society, you have money, and your entire family fortunes change. So when I said I was a comedian, I wanted to be a comedian at 17 years old, my mother cried. And this is her real response. She started crying. She took 2 quick breaths in, and then she chopped me in the throat. She went like that. And it was hot. I couldn't breathe. But I told her I wanted to be a comedian because I felt like not taking the opportunity to step on a path that I felt like was calling me was a slap in my parents' face. The sacrifice they made to now give me the opportunity to pursue something that I feel like I have a talent in and I've discovered felt like a huge disrespect to them. That sacrifice they made, everything they gave up, and then I just go and do the thing that is the status quo. I couldn't do that. I had to push myself. And I'm so glad I did. And other people have touched on it. But the unknown is the only place where I feel like I've actually grown, where I've actually learned something and I've actually developed, right? And stand-up comedy is the perfect example of that. When you walk on stage and you crush, right? Much like now, you don't learn anything. The shows where I learned something was the laundromat when no one was listening, where the lady was literally drying her clothes while I was trying to tell jokes, right? The gigs where I learned was the ones where there was 2 people in the audience and one of them was my mother. Those were the gigs that I learned something, and those were the gigs that I grew from. And I feel like that is a golden rule that applies to every context. Whatever your endeavor is, being in places that are uncomfortable, the unknown, is the only place you're going to truly grow. I've run out of time, but I want to read you 2 quotes. One from the 12th century poet, the Iranian poet Rumi. And Rumi says, "Run from what is comfortable. Forget safety. Live where you fear to live. Destroy your reputation. Be notorious. I have tried prudent planning long enough. From now on, I will be a madman." I saw that when I was 18 years old. and I've tried to live by that for the rest of my life. One other quote I want to read you is by NBA player J.R. Smith. And J.R. Smith is an NBA player who is notorious for having unearned confidence. And he has no right to be as confident as he is. He's a below average NBA player at best. But I love J.R. Smith because he said something that resonates with me as a Kiwi deeply. And sometimes, this quote that I'm about to read you, I feel like as Kiwis, we need to take this on board a little bit more. And he said, when in doubt, shoot the fucking ball. That's it. Thank you. My name is Pax Assadi. Thank you guys so much.
The Big Screen Symposium 2024 was presented by Script to Screen. We gratefully thank our event partners, the New Zealand Film Commission, Images and Sound, New Zealand On Air, and Te Mangai Paho. Voiceover is by Jamie Irvine and the music is by Poddington Bear. You can read more about these speakers at our website, www.bigscreensymposium.com. This podcast is brought to you thanks to generous support from Images and Sound.